with the fur. The whole club is looking at her.
Hey guys, we're back. It's week 8, and we just did diet break.
Yeah, the diet break was awesome.
If you call PTSD awesome, then yes.
Yeah, where do we
Tell
start?
us about the diet break.
So let me think back to last Tuesday. So Tuesday to Tuesday is my normal week cycle. I usually get a little bit anxious on my diet breaks because I am recalculating my predicted maintenance, and coming out of my reverse diet, my maintenance calories were actually quite a bit above my predicted. So my metabolism had certainly recovered and had repaired itself, so I was sitting a little bit above the equations that we typically use. So I have to kind of keep that in mind when I'm recalculating my new predicted maintenance. So every time my weight comes down, it's going to change a little bit. So we're talking
about this because in the study that we referenced for diet breaks, the Matador study, when they do a diet break, they don't use off-season maintenance calories. They use your current predicted maintenance calories based. So as you lose weight, you lose a little bit of lean body mass and you lose fat mass, and those two
they're
things
the two factors that are considered in that
lower your metabolic rate. So we're trying to make sure that we stay at the current maintenance, because if we give you a week of 2,000 calories a day, which was your maintenance, months ago, then you may actually gain weight. So we're trying to get the current maintenance, is what we're saying.
I think we did a pretty good job with kind of guesstimating where my metabolism is at right now. So yeah, as I was saying, I always tend to get a little bit anxious coming into those diet breaks because you work so hard, and my targets are pretty aggressive at the moment on my dieting week. So to jump your calories back up 400 or 500 and you're expecting to maintain your weight is a little daunting. And I think this week in particular, we had a lot of stuff going on with work. We had Liv's second birthday party, so there was a lot of extra work tasks and responsibilities this week. So overall, there was a lot of stuff kind of thrown on the plate to make us exceptionally busy. And
you're somebody, you do well with structure, and you don't do well when your normal routine gets
when
disrupted.
my normal routine is like not in place, and I'm having to get asked last minute, can you do this or can you do that, or this needs to be organized and I was meant to be working. It's like So yeah, I actually did pretty good leading into the weekend, and I did have a strategy. So my strategy was, like, we obviously have a lot of people coming to the house. We had like 30 guests over the course of the day for the party, so I was going to be doing a lot of cooking. And I know for me, in the past, that has been like a massive, I'm going to use the word, but I hate it, trigger. Can you think of a better word? But it definitely puts me in a position where I feel very tempted to eat. And
you're somebody who picks at food as you cook.
I love cooking, I love eating, I'm such a foodie, so I like to try everything as I'm cooking to make sure it tastes good. And I have a really hard time not eating. Like, it sounds so ridiculous, but I just love food. So dieting.
There's a 300-pound girl somewhere.
Yeah, I think. Yes, definitely. But anyway, I have a really hard time saying no, and my plan was to make sure that I would at least go into the start of the day not rolling any calories, just setting myself up and pacing myself throughout the day so that I could actually eat all the awesome stuff that I had prepared for everybody. And I did a really great job until Friday evening. I was making some caramel slice, and what was I doing? I was like drinking the condensed milk, and Lane's like looking at me going, Holly,
that seems reasonable to spend macros on.
Why are you drinking the condensed milk left over out of the can? I'm like, well, I'm not going to use it, and I'll just put it in tomorrow. So I tracked it. I was taking some accountability. Previously, I wouldn't bother tracking it. I would just feel really guilty and stressed, and I would just go, that didn't happen. So I've taken on some responsibility, started actually tracking everything that I pick at. So yeah, it already kind of set me up for a bit of a failure on Saturday. So the next mistake, and I want you guys to actually learn from my mistakes, I'm trying to tell you kind of how not to do things based on what I have experienced in my life and dieting and preps. I stopped tracking. So throughout the morning, I was kind of picking at things as I was putting together all the platters, and I just stopped entering stuff into my tracking app, and that was the biggest mistake I could have made. So if I can share any kind of message for you when it comes to competition, track it before you eat it or track it as you are eating it, because what happens is you end up going, you're staying accountable instead of going YOLO, and that's exactly what happened for the rest of the day.
You're only lean once.
You're only lean once, if you didn't know that reference. So track your macros, and I have this happen with clients all the time where they'll just send me in their reports, and this probably happens, I don't know what you track with your clients, but I get all the details. But there'll be like 3 days where there's no numbers entered and I don't know what they've actually consumed. And I'm like, well, why? What did you do? Why didn't you report on those days? I'm like, I just didn't track. I'm like, well, now it's a non-compliant week. I don't know what your actual intakes were. And it makes it really hard as a coach to then take appropriate actions to correct for that. So I made a mistake this week, and it really screwed me up, didn't it?
I think if it would have stopped at that day, I think that but you were, if I recall correctly, by the time the party was finished, you were a little bit over.
Yeah.
And then I think that night, like right before bed, you ate something else too, right?
I didn't have anywhere near enough protein on that day. Yeah, so I ate some protein.
Yeah. But you were already I think, going to bed in a negative headspace, and you woke up pretty cranky the next day.
I was very disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
Very disappointed.
So, and you tend to like, you're somebody who builds. So if you have like some good positive days, your confidence gets really high, and you tend to do better and better.
Yes.
And if you have a bad day or two bad days, it tends to like get worse and worse.
Yeah.
Until something clicks and you stop.
Yeah.
So. And the next day, you were really upset because you were bored all day. That was your. But I think for you also, when you're bored, you have more of a tendency to eat. Mm-hmm. Like that's your like filling time of boredom.
Yeah.
And
I think many of you can probably agree with the fact that when you're busy and you have a lot of stuff to do, it can take away like the thoughts.
Some people are different actually. Some people, when they get really busy, they actually tend to grab food to like kind of ease their stress or whatever, but you are like the most. I'm convinced you're actually an infant in an adult's body, because if your gastrointestinal tract is okay and you're fed, you've had enough sleep, and you're not bored, you're just a pleasure to be around. But if any one of those four things are not in sync, you get pretty upset. So. You were bored, and I think your GI was a little upset the next day.
Was really unhappy. So I think I'd had like 7 grams of fiber for 3 days in a row, and that's just not good for me. Like I need to be a little higher than that, and it was just terrible. So then I actually did have an episode where I knew that I was mindlessly just eating, and I could.
And that was on Monday.
That was on Monday, so this has kind of rolled over.
So now this is 3 days that this has kind of been going.
Yeah, so I had to do so much exercise over those 3 days, and when we go over my compliance this week, you'll be able to see what I actually had to do just to maintain my weight this week, because of the extra calories that I had. But it's very traumatic for me, I feel, because of my history with eating disorders. I feel like.
You're talking about, so when you mean mindless eating, you're talking about like a binge episode?
It's like, it's an overwhelming sense of disappointment, like that I have failed, and it gets me really upset. Like I can feel myself like getting all hot right now.
Yeah, you were.
Like really upsets me.
Your reaction is actually like a traumatic reaction.
Yeah, because I've done.
She does what I like to call a hard reset. So when your iPhone doesn't work. And you have to hold the home button and the side button at the same time
to turn the fucker off.
To turn it off. So she kind of just like lays in bed, stares at the ceiling, and becomes pretty catatonic.
Yeah.
And that's usually only, you can have a lot of like bad stuff go on. Like I remember when I got, like kicked out of a company that I was involved with, like you were fine, like you were able to process, and even like when bad stuff has happened in our businesses, you've been able to process and talk and be logical. But if you have, whenever you have an episode where you binge eat, that is where like by far that is what like causes you to be like,
that's
have
the
a traumatic
only thing.
response.
That's the only time I feel like when it's anything to do with my nutrition, because it's something I feel like it's just completely taken out of my control. I just am not a reasonable person, and I find it very hard to be logical. And you even said to me, am I going to have a conversation with Holly today, or am I going to have a conversation with this unreal...
I'm not an asshole, by the way. That's not exactly
you're
how
real
I
with
say.
me. You are so real with me, and I think it kind of helps. And
you were better this time. You didn't acknowledge that you were irrational, but you turned it around pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's something else I would like to talk about. So when you feel like you're in this place where you might have, stuffed up your macros, or you didn't get to train, or, that's something that a lot of people say, I'm so disappointed I didn't get any of my training sessions in this week because this happened, or it could be the other way around, your diet, you didn't get your diet quite right.
What do I always say to you every time this happens, no matter what it is?
It's not forever. The feeling that you're having is temporary.
But I also tell you, you can't change what just happened.
No, you can't.
And you can't undo it.
No.
The only thing, and this goes for anything in life, you can't change what just happened.
Yeah.
And I have myself gotten a lot of solace. I texted this to you when I was out running errands, but I've gotten a lot of solace out of the following two sentences in the last 2 years of my life when things have been hard, is that I am not in control of all the things that happen to me, and I'm not in control of other people. But I'm 100% in control of how I respond to that.
Yeah.
And that has given me a lot of solace. So, you, and I believe you, sometimes that becomes out of your control in terms of your food. Like when you're stressed and you're in a negative place, like that can be really difficult for you to actually control that. But I always say to you, you can't change what just happened, but you can make a decision that, okay, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, and I think that's what I was just about to say. So the thing that I found most valuable over the past few years is being able to kind of recover and pull yourself out of these negative emotions is to make that decision that you are going to move on, get on with your day, or try to make some kind of resolution. So I had really stuffed up, and I think I just said to you, I was sitting up here, I was a mess, and I was like, all right, I've decided that today I'm actually going to do an extra 30 minutes of HIIT. It's going to have to be at 9 o'clock because that's the only time I have to do it today because I've got to work. And then it was like, boom, okay, regained control of my emotions, and I also did some self-reflection. So it was, I think that's something that you can learn from. Okay, what were the problems, or how did this situation become about in the first place? So the first thing was not sticking to my my plan. So in future, I know that I need to really, when we've got big events and a lot of stuff going on, I have to learn from these mistakes. So trying to stick to that plan and really being disciplined in doing that. And the second thing was, or the error that I made was stopping from tracking. So, next time I'm going to make sure that I'm 100% accountable and track everything. Okay, even if I have to write it down in case I forget, like that is the big thing that I can do to improve next time. And then trying to, once, if something does happen like this, moving on as quickly as possible and finding a resolution and just being at ease with the outcome. I think you can't change anything.
I think I want to emphasize too that we're not necessarily saying that if you overeat, you should go out and do a bunch of exercise if you view that as punishment. That's not punishment for you. The exercise for you, I'm convinced, is as much as, okay, well, I'll burn some calories. You just feel better after you exercise.
Yeah, I walk back into
your mindset is much better.
Like, I feel a bit of release.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that you were like Santa Claus or anything, but like you weren't Charles Manson, which was nice. So, it definitely has a positive impact on you. But doing something that gets you in a positive frame of mind, like for me, if I had like something really bad, this is going to sound weird. I don't do well lifting weights when I'm angry or if I'm really upset. Like I do terrible at it. I that is not a productive engagement. As much as I love to lift weights, it's actually not productive for me.
Yeah.
I actually do better where I do something where like I play a video game or I go shooting or go fishing. Something where I enjoy it, and those are some of the only activities where I completely detach from the rest of the world when I'm doing them. Unfortunately, I don't get much occasion to do them anymore. But I'm pretty happy, so I don't need those things that much. But yeah, like trying to do something that puts you in a positive frame of mind and understanding what those things are in your life that do that for you, whether it's exercise or whether it's going to a movie or whatever it is, like having those tools at your disposal that switch you back into a positive frame of mind. But at the end of the day, you cannot always control what happens to you, the situation you're in, and you can't change what's happened. And I think something that I'm pretty good at is I don't stew on my mistakes or bad stuff for that long.
No.
I usually move on. I usually process and move on very quickly.
I know. I used to be so... I would hold on to things for like... I would allow it to consume me, and I think... one of the biggest... like
when we first got together, you'd have days would run together.
Yeah. So now, like, my ability to process is getting better, but it's an action and it's something that I'm trying to take control of, and I'm not allowing that mindset to stay with me. So it's taken a long time to get better at that, but I have to be willing to work on it, and I have to be willing to go, you need to pull your head in and, move on with the day. Otherwise, you're going to continue to feel like this for the remainder of the week.
Pull your head in Australia is AKA get your shit together for us US people.
So I think let's go and have a look at my actual compliance, because based on all this funny talk, it sounds like I've done really terribly, but I actually haven't. So we'll go through now what my plan is for my next 2 weeks of dieting as far as macros and how we're going to recalculate that again. And then what we did in the situation where I kind of went over my calories. You'll see there are some pretty crazy high days, and that was just what I can remember eating. So let's go check that out. So this week, for my diet break, my macros for protein are 165, 190 carbs, and 49 fat. So it wasn't a really big step up, as you can see there, from my diet week, but I have given myself a bit of lenience with my carbohydrates, just because that's typically the food that, the types of foods I enjoy more are carbohydrates. So if we go over and look at my weight for the week, you can see the dates are listed here. I started... last week was Tuesday, the start of my diet break, 66.3, 66.4, 8, 7, 4. Sunday was the morning after we had our party. I was up at 67, and then on Monday I was 67.9, and that was the combination of those 2 days kind of that rolled into each other, and it was just excessive. And if we take a look at my actual compliance, we come over to calories here. I was 5% over my calorie target, and I was very under my protein.
Right, and that's the real problem, is you're over a little bit. The compliance to calories isn't terrible.
No.
But the fact that protein was so low.
And my carbs and fats was like 116%. And we know that a calorie isn't a calorie in that sense. We can't really compare protein to carbs and fats when it comes to the thermogenic effect. So that's why my weight kind of jumped up so much, and I would have been retaining a lot of fluid as well. Probably a lot of salt, because we had like a platter, there's like salamis. I reckon I ate a block of cheese on my own, which was really cool. Not. So,
you're a psychopath.
What? You can see here my protein, 107 on Monday.
You just seen the way your eyes lit up when you talked about eating a block of cheese?
Why?
I wish you would talk about me that way.
That'll never happen when you're dieting, trust me. So I've just done a really poor job this week, and it's very lucky. It's very lucky that I got away with not gaining a whole bunch of weight. But I actually only regained 300 grams of weight based on my averages for the week. So that's a really good outcome for a diet break, considering my average intakes were around 2,000 calories. So that was a good 450 calorie increase from my dieting week. So yeah, that's really lucky. But I did have to do a lot more exercise. So if we go over to my exercise sheet, you'll see here, I actually ended up doing 140 minutes of HIIT over the course of the week, and previously it had only been 45 minutes. And I also did 170 minutes of low intensity steady state, so walking and just kind of moving around. So that's kind of compensated probably for some of the weight regain that would have happened, but the problem with that is when you start adding in more of those high intensity exercise sessions, you're giving your body a chance to kind of adapt to that level and caliber of training. And I didn't really want to do it that early into the program. So looking at this week, after my lovely week of compliance, Lane and I have already had a bit of a chat about this.
Yeah, so we're doing the prep based on my book, the complete contest prep guide. Yep. So we're following the guidelines there.
Yep.
And so since she didn't really drop, we kind of refigured out like what her deficit is going to equate to. So she's behind now.
I'm actually very behind. So I still need to lose 4.8 kilos, I think we said. So
that's our estimate, and that equates to, in terms of if we continue 2 weeks dieting, 1 week break.
Yeah.
That equates to about a 675 kcal deficit per day that we need. And so
I'm aiming to lose about 800 grams on my diet
per week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which can happen.
It's gonna be hard.
That's what she said. That can happen. We've also considered, but have not implemented yet, I think we're going to cross that bridge when we get there, possibly switching to 2 week and 2 days dieting and then a 5-day diet break, which has still shown benefits.
Yep.
And that would make it so the deficit
isn't quite so
per
aggressive.
day isn't quite so aggressive.
Yeah.
And we have decided, based on the book, the recommendation is to drop 10% from carbs and fats. Mm-hmm. So 10% of your carbohydrate intake and 10% of your fat intake.
That's from your maintenance, guys. It's from your predictive.
No. That's from your current diet calories.
What do you mean?
No, we dropped. So you were at 135.
Okay, sorry, you're talking about my last dieting.
Yeah, and we were going to drop to 120 and drop fats to 42. However, you can see that it's lower than that, but that's because you're going to put in 2 high days during the week, because there is some evidence, and it's mostly personal preference. Some people are able to do well if they know that they have 2 higher days where they can have some more flexibility. They're okay with going a little bit more aggressive for a few days.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I like to have the option that I can have a couple, because if you're sure, you can have every day be 120 grams of carbohydrate and 42 grams of fat, and you're having a little bit more food every day, but you're not going to be able to fit something really nice in there.
Right.
Whereas if you have 10 grams less every day for 5 days, and you've got 2 days at 150, now you've got a little more flexibility and you can fit something a little bit nicer.
So, and I would say that usually I like to just have 7 days of the same macros, but once you start getting to more challenging calorie targets, that's when I'm happy to go a little bit harder on the lower days to enable me to have some flexibility. And again, like, our lives don't stop, our social life does not stop. We are always going to be doing things and having activities. So again, this weekend we have plans. So it's actually going to work well to be able to have 2 days where I have slightly higher targets to enable, restaurant food, because it's going to be higher in calories. So this week, you can see my...
I think one thing that's going to have to happen as you get closer, though...
Oh, I'm going to have to stop that stuff. I know.
Yeah, that's...
We're almost there.
The problem, because even if you track, the problem is you're not preparing the food, you don't know what's in it, you don't know if they've just splashed an extra 15 grams of oil in there.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Even if you ask.
Right, exactly. So you're introducing more chances for error. So, and I think we're getting close to that if we don't start seeing some more progress. I think we're going to be close to the point where you're not going to be able to do that sort of stuff. And so I'm not saying not have a social life during prep, but I mean,
we're just being a bit more disciplined with choices.
And I think that, we are like, we're going to do things that don't necessarily involve food. Like we're taking the boat out this weekend, that sort of thing. Like that doesn't involve food, right? So you have to have strategies to do this stuff, and it's one of the very difficult things is, and I know I'm like this, is when I get into the doldrums of prep, I just tend to become a hermit. I don't want to do anything extra. If I have any extra time, I'll want to play a video game. Don't want to take my need up too much.
So this week's calorie target, the average calorie intake is going to be 1493. So that is, what are we looking at? That was my last diet here. Previously it was 1623, so it's a good 100.
So we're pretty aggressive drop.
Another aggressive drop. My low days, my targets are 160 for my protein, 110 for my carbohydrate, and 40 for my fats. And then my 2 high days, I'm reducing my protein just a little bit, and I'm increasing my carbs to 150, and I've taken my fats up by 5 to 45 grams of fat. So I
think one more thing that's important to mention, a lot of people will look at this, and they'll look at the reverse diet video and say your reverse diet was a waste of time, because look how low your calories have already had to get. And not to be real hard on you, but I think that if we had really good compliance, we wouldn't be in this position where we're having to get so aggressive. So
but relatively, like if I had not have done that reverse diet and I had started this contest prep sitting at 1700 calories or 1800,
it would be even more difficult.
It would be even more difficult. It is usually pretty relative to where you start from.
Right. So. And the other thing to point out is you're doing much less activity now than you were last prep. I mean, you were probably doing 20 hours of exercise a week during your prep, the last prep when you were in Australia.
So I would be doing an hour of cardio every day, and I would do 1 to 2 hours of weights training every day. Every day. And there was no rest days in there either, because I was always happy to catch up because I would have stuffed it up. So
and that's the one other thing I think it's important to point out for you, because you've been really hard on yourself. And I said you're still doing better than your previous prep that you ended up having to drop out of. And then the one that you did in Australia, because you were still, at that point, you were having like binge eating episodes pretty much every week.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So you've only had a couple of those recently. So your management skills are getting better.
I would, if I had have done the extent of the reverse diet that I did, I would not be in this position now. I would be so much worse. Like I know a lot of people find like, when they start dieting again after reverse and they're having to push pretty difficult numbers to lose weight again, it's not a waste of time. There is so much value in it.
Compared to what? Like what would it have been like if you hadn't done that, right?
Yeah, so I think people need to kind of remember that if they, any time spent out of a calorie deficit is doing your metabolism good. So, and pushing your metabolism up and up is a positive thing. And it gives you more flexibility in your off season. I mean, some people might prefer to do it tough all year round. Like, I don't know, if that's what you prefer to do, then that's okay too. But yeah, for me, I much rather, spend that bit of time in a calorie surplus, I guess, or reversing. And yeah, I think that it would be a whole lot more difficult if I hadn't have done that. Looking at training this week, 5 days of weight sessions. I'm increasing my HIIT now to 90 minutes, so 2 45-minute HIIT sessions. And then previously I was doing 120 minutes of low intensity steady state. I'm actually going to make half of that on the Stairmaster, again just nudging up the difficulty or the amount of calorie burn, and half is still going to be walking. So yeah, 2 increases on the training side this week, just because I do have to lose 800 grams a week if I want to be kind of on track. So yeah, go me.
So I think we have a plan, now I just have to execute. So I think that we're still in position that you can be ready, but this is the tough part of prep. This is a spot that a lot of people get to, and
and they pull out.
Now it's time to. We never pull out.
Oh my god.
Sorry. You know you leave an opening like that. I'm just
I should know you better.
Yeah.
I think that's all for this week, guys. Lane, we can just leave now.
So, but I think that, you know, the next 2 weeks are very important, especially with the Olympia coming up, because that's going to be challenging
we're going to travel next week to Vegas.
So I think really trying to make sure that the hammer's down and everything is done to the best extent possible.
Yeah. If you're in Vegas and you're watching this, make a comment down below, because I want to know where I need to train and I want someone to train with. So comment. Also, if you have questions about the series, or you wanting to know something for your own competition, please share your thoughts with us. We will try to get back to you as quick as we can. We want this to be useful for you. We don't just sit here, hoping that you're just watching this as your daytime TV. We want you to learn from this and not make the same mistakes and do really well. So, we appreciate all of your comments.
And remember, never pull out.
Oh my God.
See you guys next week.
Bye.